Welcome back to the Man Overboard podcast. Today we're joined by Alan and Dan from 4 Years Strong on the UK leg of their Analysis Paralysis tour. How's it going, guys?
It's great.
Going awesome.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Up in Leeds, as an American band, I always find it kind of interesting. Leeds seems to be a kind of hub because of Slam Dunk and a lot of the things going on here for pop punk. Had you actually heard of Leeds before starting to come and tour here? I'm intrigued.
only
Yeah, just because of Reading and
Leeds.
Leeds.
Of course, yeah.
Everyone knows.
Yeah.
So this is your second date on the UK tour so far,
Yep,
isn't
we
it?
were
Yeah.
in Manchester yesterday. Leeds today.
What's the reception been like on your first date for the new music in general?
It's been awesome.
It's been
Honestly, it's
amazing.
been, really not surprising because we like the record a lot, but when we're playing shows, people seem to be gravitating towards the newer songs.
Which has never been the case in our entire career.
Yeah, we've always been more of a, everybody just wants to hear the old stuff.
A grower,
kind of
not a
band.
shower. You know.
But so far, it's been the opposite with this new record. It's really been cool because those are the songs that we're the most excited to play. They're the newest songs. We haven't been playing them for 16, 17 years, so it's fun to play them. So
That and Brain Pain songs, because that
Yeah.
came out in 2020 and we haven't had a chance to
Yeah.
Oh, of course,
come over
yeah,
here
because
and
of
headline with those.
the shutdown.
Yeah.
something happened. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
But speaking of your career as a whole, you guys formed in 2001, a hell of a long time ago, nearly 25 years now. And I kind of wanted to just speak to you about the music industry as a whole from that point, because obviously you guys have
It's
been
an
involved
entirely
in
different
touring.
universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, how has it evolved for you as a band in terms of that album release cycle? I think physical albums are kind of coming more into people's lives now. Vinyl's made a bit of a comeback, at least over here it has. But how's that changed for you?
Oh my God, it's changed
Yeah.
a lot.
Especially the way that you get a record out there has changed because there isn't, when we put out Rise or Die Trying, we put it out on I Surrender Records, and then, I think it was re-released with Decadence, right? Or no, was that Enemy?
That was Enemy.
Enemy, whatever. We put it out with I Surrender Records, and with them, it was kind of like, this is the way we like to put out records. We like to do it this way. This seems to work. We'll have you guys do a bunch of, sometimes YouTube videos. We did some, or like some MySpace things.
Really far back in the
Yeah,
day.
There
like
wasn't a lot of
the inception.
content.
Yeah, there
the
wasn't-
idea of content being an important part, let alone the most important part,
Yeah,
wasn't really in existence, and it really was just about trying to be good at playing music.
Yeah, they were still taking out magazine ads and shit. Like, what a waste, what a worthless thing to do today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
So it's changed a lot.
Do you prefer it? Do you prefer the kind of streaming digital age where I'd imagine it's probably easier to record songs in a way if you're apart from each other sometimes and send each other ideas and stuff. But then at the same time, I think music's become not free as such, but it doesn't feel
No one values it, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, the
feel like
value
it's-
of music has gone down a lot. But honestly, the biggest issue that I have with nowadays, which Alan has said before, is that when we put out Rise or Die and we put out Enemy, it felt like you would put together a team and everybody on the team had a specific job that they were really good at. You've hired
you
somebody
had
for promotion, somebody
Art director, you had a
marketing,
publicist, which these things still exist, but they're not like the reason it came up is because we had a meeting when we were in Nashville with our label and our booking agent and our basically our entire team was there, and we were just talking about how to keep things with the record moving and stuff like that. And I was like, listen, I'm not blaming any of you right now because I know this is the state of the world. This is no one's problem. But how is it that we're sitting at a table with like professionals in their field, experts in what they do, but the answer to how do we do it is always back on like the artist doing it.
like we make music. We like making music. I don't like promoting music.
Yeah, we're not. We're not experts in marketing or video editing or like content creation is just like a whole thing that we're fucking bad at.
We're too old for it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of onus on it nowadays as well, isn't there? Because you tend to find that a lot of artists that are coming up without the advent of things like TikTok and all these other short form content sites, there's no way for them to actually get any exposure anymore.
Yeah.
So they're just stuck in a zone where if they don't like surrender to that system, then you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, that and there's so much music coming out all of the time. That there's just, you have to find a way to break through this like noise barrier of just all this stuff that's going on. And that's the hardest part is we can't just be like, hey, we have some new songs. Let's just put them out. We have to be like, okay, we have to put them out. And how do we make it feel like a big deal? And then how do we get this? And how do we, it's just like,
how do we keep people's
I just want to record music and just go, here you go. Listen to it.
And there are people that do that.
Yeah.
But you have to be the biggest band in the world for it to work. Like,
It's tough.
like didn't Billie Eilish do that with her recent record? It just like kind of came out one day.
Yeah.
Or I don't remember, it was Billie Eilish.
There's a lot of rappers and people like
that
that
just
that
like
do
it just
as
comes
well.
out
Just go
and it
release
works.
the project.
Well, yeah, with a lot of the culture around like the hip hop like world, that's kind of what's expected.
Yeah.
So there's still, even though that's the way they do it, it kind of still works with that. But with us, we've got to do teasers and we got to do, countdowns and.
But you
like,
can tell
what the hell?
that people are fatigued by that.
Yeah.
Because everybody has to do it. Therefore, everyone that does it becomes less and less important.
Which is
Like,
what makes it harder.
the
because-
industry is watering down the thing they're trying to accomplish, you know?
And then it makes it harder because it feels like every time you're putting out music or putting out a record, you have to somehow rewrite the game plan
Playbook,
of how to put things out. Like you have to
Everyone's
start from
guessing.
scratch.
You like, I don't know if you've ever talked to people in the industry, like labels. Everyone's just guessing. Everyone's flying by the seat of their pants. There aren't, like Dan said before, there used to be kind of like a way to do it. That you play it by these rules, and it likely will work. And if it doesn't work, it's the music's fault, not the process's
That
fault.
and what works amazingly well for one artist
Won't work.
will not work for
That's
another
it.
artist.
Yeah.
So it's throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. I don't know if I can swear in here, but
No,
throwing-
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
you
do what
want.
you want.
Fuck
Yeah.
ass.
it's just mayhem every time.
But taking it back to the start, you guys formed in high school, is that correct?
Yeah.
That is crazy to me. The fact 20 plus years later, you're still touring. And I think a lot of the kind of newer, younger artists, you mentioned it there, kind of hip hop and rap is more instant now, the kind of rise of SoundCloud rappers. Do you think it is much harder now for a band to form in high school, get the kind of instruments together, get a tour? It really is all just kind of on TikTok. And what was it like for you forming in high school? If you can take us back there, how did it kind of level up to actually becoming a fully fledged?
Well, for us, it was a lot more of, we spent every waking moment that we had trying to play as well as we could together. We were just, every day after school, we would go to my parents' house and we would
He
practice.
lived right down the street from
Every
from
single
school.
day. That's what we did. We would just play. And
And we played as many local shows as we could. We were playing every weekend.
yeah, that was kind of our way of getting out there, is we were just like, let's be the band that turns heads and try to get on every show that we can. And that was how we built everything up, was just like one show at a time. But
But that was for sure what we did, is we focused on trying to be, like, it was all about being a good live band. It was about being able to, like, I don't want to say like show up every other band in the room, but like kind of, it was about wanting to like wow people. And I'm not saying we even do that, but like it was important to us that we translated what we were, what we envisioned in our music, so that everyone in the room was hearing what we heard.
Because I suppose back then as well, you were fighting in the DIY scene. So rather than you having unlimited bands online to compete against, you still had like 10 or 12 bands in your local scene that you then had to like put yourselves in front of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a lot of playing the same, like playing shows with the same bands every weekend from like around us. You know?
And I mean, we were really fortunate at the time too, because like, I don't know if this kind of thing exists as much anymore, but like it was a pretty great small local scene where we had, like Dan said, we were playing with a lot of the same bands. So we had like a community that was super supportive, that we were helping each other get shows, and like it wasn't competitive. Like I know I was making it seem like we're trying to show up other bands in the room. It wasn't really like that. It was
that was more of a personal
just trying to be the best at what we do, be the best version of us. And there's no question it's got to be harder now to be able to find a group of people that just want to, that are able to focus their energy just on playing the instruments.
Just focusing in general.
That, and I feel
true.
like when you're putting a band together, it's not like, oh, this guy plays guitar really well and like looks kind of cool. Now it's like this guy plays guitar really well and also he's pretty good at making content.
He's got
and he's got this many followers and this about. So it's just like,
yeah, I saw something.
It doesn't feel as,
I don't know if it's true about like
pure anymore.
Maya Hawke, the actress that's in like Stranger Things, came out and like said that there's a thing with producers for movies and
casting
TV now
people,
for casting people, that the cast as a whole has to hit a number of followers.
Oh, that's crazy.
On their social media. So if you don't have as much, basically they have this quota they have to hit, and the combination, and that's how they choose.
I mean, that's how a lot of festivals do it too.
Oh yeah,
bands,
numbers are so important. But the thing is, we've noticed being out in the real world,
it's not as.
It's not a one-to-one. Like if you have a shitload of monthly listeners on Spotify, that doesn't equal. It sometimes does, but it doesn't always equal a similar amount.
Bodies in the room.
In a room.
Yeah.
That's what we like to tell ourselves anyway.
I was going to say, I think one of the sad things about it for me is it promotes a rise of individualism. So like you mentioned how having so many followers is so important.
Yeah.
Now, if someone is trying to start a band, they'll probably just pick whoever's got the most kind of influence and followers to be the front man, to be the lead guitarist, to be whatever. I think that kind of putting together a party of people who are all fighting for one common cause is kind of why we've seen people just turn to different types of music in many ways. Like there's obviously still loads of good bands that come about, and it's
the problem is that's part of the problem. There's so much good music out there that I like, even as a person that is obsessed with music and has surrounded my whole life around music, I get fatigued because I'll hear a snippet of some song and I'm like, that's amazing. And then I go check it out, and then that happens like 6 times a day, and it's all pretty good. So it's hard to like even grab onto one, because there's so many.
The level of musicians that you see on Instagram and TikTok.
And makes me feel like a piece
Spanish
of shit.
drummer who's absolutely insane, as guitarists that can just tap everything, like Buried Alive, all these artists where you just think, I could never get to that level. I don't know how I'm supposed to compete with it.
If I was like, when I first started playing guitar, if putting that out in the world and like making content about it was a thing, I probably would have done it. And maybe there's some sort of pressure to be better when you're putting yourself out there and wanting to impress, kind of like what we were saying about impressing the other bands in the room and the people at the shows, that just like you're casting a wider net.
The problem that I have with it is that so many of those artists and like so many of those like online guitar, like you can look at it and be like, yeah, but we're not hearing what is actually being like played. Like they had a lot of time to like perfect it, record it, get it sounding awesome, and then just basically lip sync to it and mime it. And it's like
time and then play it back.
Exactly. And that's the same. It's the same issue with live stuff too.
I thought about that with Dan's really into this beatboxing videos.
Is it Swiss Beats?
No, it's I don't even know.
Is it where they go up to each other in the streets and he just goes?
No, I literally, the reason why it comes up on my algorithm is there's this guy, I think he might be British actually, who just reacts to other people beatboxing, and the sounds that people can make now. It's like when I think of like what beatboxing was when I was like growing up, compared to like, they don't sound human anymore. No. Like I don't understand how you're making some of these sounds, and it's because...
And that's what I was going to say, is like, I see those and I'm like, how do we know that's what's actually coming out of this person's mouth? Obviously it sounds insane.
But that's
But if you were standing right next to him, is that what it would sound like? Or did he record it and EQ it so all those subby frequencies, like
with the quality of microphone as well, is there any magicry going on?
Right, yeah.
Like, is it real at all? We don't know. There's no way of knowing.
And we try pretty hard. And I don't know if it's like actually more of a handicap than anything else. So we try to do everything like actual, like when we play shows live, like we don't have, guitars tracked or like any of the stuff happening behind us. We're trying to play it. And then I've had this conversation before and be like, do we just actually sound like a worse band? Because they sound like a recording, because they are. And we're playing the music live.
No shade on like people using tracks.
Yeah,
and stuff like
it's
that.
fine.
Because we have a couple things going on.
Yeah, like
some vocal delay throws and stuff, like more effecty kind of stuff. No
guitars,
third guitar part or anything like that. Everything you hear
sometimes
live.
Like a tambourine.
Yeah, stuff that like we don't have the guy on stage to do it.
Yeah.
we have some stuff playback
And
live.
if we didn't have that, we could play the show and it would be exactly
and no one would
the
even
same
notice.
thing.
Perfect. But I do think people appreciate that, though. I feel like there is a certain level at which you can go, okay, this is all live versus some of this isn't sounding like it's coming out of those
But every once in a while, we wonder, is the crowd going like,
Man, these guys are
other bands sound
amazing.
so much better than For Your Strong did. What was with that? Yeah. But yeah, we're just like so fascinated by the idea of being able to do it live. And even if that means making it harder on ourselves, like we have pedal boards on stage that we're just like tap dancing around the whole set because of like the way we write music now. We're like guitar tones are changing part to part and it gets crazy. And we could just program it all to happen automatically with like MIDI.
This is more stuff to go wrong though.
Yeah, but then you're relying on that. I don't know.
I feel like you're enjoying being a master of your craft.
Yes,
which is,
and I won't say I'm a master of my craft.
No, he's neither of us.
But I aspire to be.
I mean, with your new album as well, you've got a lot of new sounds and different effects in there that's going on. I mean, in my head, there's some synths going on as well throughout the album potentially.
Well, the beginning of Aftermath, obviously, there's the
sequencer
thing. So playing that,
so that's
kind of
on
music,
a track.
Yeah. So playing that stuff live,
we don't have that.
Have you accounted for that with backing, or is it all just done on the fly as you're playing it?
Everything's pretty much on the fly. I don't think we really have that many synths on the record. The only other synth I think we used that I can think of.
We used some like sequencer kind of stuff, like Patty stuff in Sucks to Fall in Love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The one I was gonna say is it's just kind of along with the guitar for Dead End Friend for the chorus.
Yeah, we like texture it in there. But like
all just
when we play live,
stuff.
it's just a
guitar.
Yeah.
Because it sounds huge, this album, by the way.
Thank
It sounds so good. And with all the new little techniques that you're throwing in there, like the occasional like above the nut, playing those strings, just cool sound effects. Really
that was kind of the goal, is to just keep things interesting and have fun sonically with it.
Alan and I go through this like self-loathing process when it comes to writing new music, where we get into a room and we hold guitars and we go, I don't even know how to make this thing do new stuff.
Everything that comes out of it,
I think we used all the stuff on here. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah,
so everything just sounds like a shitty.
So I would say probably
trying to be a pop punk band song.
Yeah, an entire third of the writing process is just us getting over the fact that
you can't do anything new with it.
You can't do anything new with it. You got to figure out how to do with what you got.
Yeah. But when you were coming up, who were the biggest inspirations for you? You mentioned trying to be the best band in the room a lot of the times, but who got you into music for both of you? Who was the one where you went, you heard it and said, I'm going to be a musician because I love this band and I want to...
I mean, honestly, for me, it's probably like Metallica at that point. And then like Korn, Limp Bizkit. Like that was like that was like my youth, was basically those types of bands.
I can't even remember, honestly, because I'm going to sound like a loser when I say it, but like literally from... when I was like, before I can remember, I've been obsessed with music. You know, like I don't know that I can think of the moment where I'm like, wow, I want to do that. It's like it was just
instilled in you from birth.
Like literally, there's video like home movies of me as like a 2-year-old with toy guitars and singing into the camera. It's just like, but like, I don't know what got me into like all of a sudden I was like, rock music is the shit. Had to have been Green Day.
Well, actually, I was about to say
Longview
was my song. I remember I would listen to whatever like at that time I was like listening to whatever was just on. Like
on the radio.
It didn't really matter to me. And then I remember specifically we were in the basement at my parents' house with a bunch of friends, and my brother had a really extensive CD collection because he loved music. And people were like, oh, do you have any music? I was like, I mean, there's a ton of music over there. Go pick out whatever. I don't know any of it. And they're like, oh, you have Green Day Dookie. I was like, okay, whatever that means. Sure, put it on. And they put on Longview. And I remember being like, this is fucking awesome. And like from that moment, I was like, I'm going to like rock music now. And with like starting to play guitar, that was kind of very close to when that happened.
And because it's easy to play too. You know, it's just like power chords.
And for me, it was, I had a friend who also started playing guitar at the same time. And every day we would show up to each other's house and be like, last night I learned this song from the radio and I learned this song from the radio. And we would have these competitions. And then eventually he was like, he got annoyed that I kept learning new songs. And he was like, I want to go skateboard. And I was like, all right, I'm going to stay inside and play guitar. And then we stopped being friends.
I mean, both are quite wholesome ways to have come into music. It's nice. I'm always slightly jealous of the American pop punk scene. Obviously, England's kind of catching up a little bit, or the UK. We've got some bigger bands and more bands coming through in that scene. But America, it just seems like you were saying, going to the local shows all the time, doesn't happen quite as much over here, and it's a real shame. Obviously,
I don't know that it still happens here, honestly.
You mean in the States?
By here I mean our home. Like I don't know if it does. I might just be
Removed
separated.
From it. I imagine there's still a local DIY
Yeah, I'm sure there's still. I mean,
yeah.
hardcore is very much still alive and doing a lot of the DIY stuff. Which, I mean, everything goes through these like weird changes. I remember it was like when we were kids, the hardcore scene was really big, and the pop punk scene was a little bit smaller. And then I think it started to change a little bit. The pop punk scene got big, and people were like less going to hardcore shows. And I think hardcore shows are like kind of taking the lead now.
Yeah, they've gone back that way again. Yeah. And I imagine there's a lot of bands out there that are now trying to say, you know, fuck the system. We're going to go back to doing DIY shows. Yeah. We're not going to upload our music to streaming, this, that, and the other. Which
That'd be awesome.
Is great to see.
There's a video of like, it might be Neil deGrasse Tyson or something, talking about how like he has a theory that the internet is so overloaded with misinformation that we're going to hit like a point where people just aren't on it anymore because it's pointless. That would be fucking awesome.
If there was a button, if there was a button to turn the internet off, I would click that button.
Oh my God. Cause we have this conversation all the time that like society, the world was better off before, I won't say the internet.
Yeah. Cause like AOL was sick.
Yeah, like the ability to communicate with people easily is awesome. The ability to have a GPS and look up where you're going, like all that stuff is great. But like there was a version of
it's the social part of it.
It's the misinformation, the need for advertisement and everything to be for someone to make money, and how accessible it is for everyone as like, you know, it's a double-edged sword because obviously as a creative, it's amazing to have a tool that can like get your like art to literally anyone in the world. But that also makes it like some of y'all suck, you know?
Yeah.
I think we might be one of them. I'm not saying but I feel like back in the day, you just had to be good in order to get to a certain point. So let's turn off the internet.
I think that trend is kind of happening, though. I'm seeing it more and more on Instagram and TikTok and stuff where people are kind of going back to worse quality. Like the Polaroid and using an old iPhone and using an old BlackBerry to take your photos is becoming the trend. Secondhand clothes, etc., is becoming the trend. So I think more and more people... Exactly, there we go. We got the digital camera.
Amazing.
That is what people want now. And I think it is like you say, everything doesn't need to be so polished, and people are starting to realise that a little bit. A Day to Remember, who I know you've toured with before, just announced their new album. And it's only physical for the first, I think, is it for the first month?
It's like a month that they're doing
it's cool.
it, and then they're releasing it mid-next month.
We were talking about that
Yeah.
as being a fun thing. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Also, because like vinyl in general I saw they did it on CD too, which is hilarious because like, does anyone have a CD player?
Yeah, apart from in my car, which is from like 2012.
My car doesn't even have a CD
I don't think my car has one.
Mine's
My
still
truck
got one,
might.
luckily.
Is it 2019? It might have a CD player,
But as in most, nobody has CD players anymore, really.
Yeah.
But then you see people selling them on cassettes, and that's even more. Who the hell has
definitely
anything
no
to
one
play
has
that
those.
on? Nobody's got
We've
that.
made cassettes before.
Yep.
I have one. It's still shrink wrapped because I don't have a way
It's
to
an
play
awesome item, especially as like the nostalgia factor, just like holding it and
I've got a Death Leopard cassette at home, but no way to ever play it. But I've got it, so it's cool to have it.
Yeah,
but I
for
feel like in the same way, a lot of people do that with vinyls as well, where they'll have the vinyls themselves, but then no way to actually play it back.
Yeah.
But it is a way to support artists as well, so I do enjoy it because it's kind of like a little collectible almost, isn't it?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Do you have a collection? Do you collect physical vinyls or anything? Do you have a favourite record that you've got? Because some people, I imagine as an artist,
I don't think anyone in our band is like an avid collector. I listen to vinyl pretty much every day. Most of it leans like jazz.
Oh, nice.
Because my wife's really into like jazz and classical, so we have that. Where like I don't have like a bunch of modern rock music, vinyl, really. A lot of classic rock stuff. I don't know if I have a favorite.
So usually someone has one that's worth a lot or something, and they're like, I'll
see,
never open it, and I'll never.
We're not
touch it.
those guys.
No. I got a bunch of
I've
very
got
strong
one of
test
those.
presses.
What is it? What do you
MF
got?
Doom.
Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah,
Joe and Jake are more into the like hip hop vinyl game.
I think it is just a cool thing for people to collect as well,
for
though,
sure.
isn't it? Yeah.
What I've been doing recently, I haven't actually done it, but my dream is to start collecting like really old vinyl that you can like sample from.
Yes.
Because it just looks, I see people do it online and it looks like so much fun, but there's like a whole learning curve to it that I haven't figured out.
I think production-wise, that's one of the best things you can do. And if you can just go into a local record shop or even a charity shop, a second-hand shop, and find something that no one's heard before, that's a great way to do it. But there's a question that we ask everyone who comes on the podcast, right? And it's actually usually for your dream festival, but I kind of feel like we've gone over who your inspirations and stuff were already.
Sure.
So I'm actually going to ask, if you could play at any venue in the world, where would you play? It can be. We've had some weird answers.
Somebody saying performing at the Pyramids, which we didn't even know had a stage.
I didn't know that either.
We've learned that now. That
I
there's
didn't
a
know that
stage at
either.
the Pyramids.
I would have said Fenway, but we did that.
I did Fenway Park.
Wow, that is
a year ago.
unreal.
I would.
Which is
I mean,
cool.
I would say Wembley Stadium.
Yeah,
Yes,
Wembley would be
yeah,
cool.
of course, yeah,
for sure.
I forget how big that is for people
Or Madison
outside
Square
of the
Garden.
UK as well.
Madison Square
Madison
Garden.
Square Garden.
Yeah,
We did
MSG.
some really cool ones on this on the Day to Remember tour. We
Yeah, the
played
Forum.
We played the Forum in LA. We played
Red
Red
Rocks.
Rocks, which
Red
was like
Rocks
a
is
big,
another one that comes
Yeah.
up a lot. Yeah,
a big bucket list item. Yeah, Madison Square Garden for sure.
Yeah.
Wembley Stadium. We got to play O2 Arena in London,
That is good.
yeah, that's
that
very
was
good.
cool.
which was amazing.
How do the bigger venues compare to the smaller venues though? Do you lose the energy in the crowd? Is the energy amped up? Is it?
I
It's
love.
I love.
We were having this conversation
yeah.
the other day because we
It's different.
get this question in a lot of interviews about like, what do you prefer, like a larger audience, like a large venue, like big, or like a festival, or do you like small intimate shows? And for me, it's an easy. Bigger shows are more fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just like knowing that there's more opportunity in the room, you know what I mean? Or
I feel like we
more
also
connection, more possibilities to like, I don't know.
we also as a band have always thrived in the playing a bigger show to a lot of people who don't know us.
Yeah, like
and like
working
rising to
hard.
the occasion of like pulling them in and like getting them to be stoked on us by the time we're done with the set.
And maybe that's because of the way we were just talking about how we started as a band. It's just like wanting to our ability to play our songs, be able to turn people's heads.
Yeah, I mean, like our first tour, the only people coming to those shows were just the other bands on the shows, and they were all
Sometimes
just like
not
local
even
bands.
that. They would just
And-
leave.
Yeah, and they would just leave. But like we would still go like 100% at those shows and like try to play as well
Because
as
the bartender
we could.
might
and-
want a shirt.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
you go. Yeah,
know,
that's a
and-
sale there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we worked for like every fan. Like I think the beginning of our career was very much like we just made our fans one at a time.
I love that. And you've had a lot of tours and a lot of support acts for you, Koyo and Shoreline tonight.
Yeah.
Have you had any support acts where you've seen them completely take over a room where you were like, oh my God, can we beat this? I see it with
Yeah.
comedians
Title
sometimes
Fight.
where
Title
someone, they were just that special where it was like, how can we follow this up?
Yeah, Title Fight was like that.
Yeah.
We brought them out a couple times.
Yeah, they opened up a couple tours for us.
Yeah.
Couple headlining tours. And they were just the best band on every show.
Was it
One-
as soon as it happened, we were like, "This is it. These guys have."
Well,
got it.
they played really well.
Yeah.
And
And people just responded to their music
Immediately,
Like,
yeah.
They have even way more of a lore behind them, I think, now than they did at the time. But
also another band that really sucks to play after that we've toured with many
There you
times
go,
is
say.
Comeback Kid.
yep,
Oh,
God.
so
Playing
Yeah.
after
So
Comeback
good.
Kid is tough. They're just
Difficult.
such a tight band. The energy's always there. And I mean, I love touring with them because I love watching
Yeah,
them.
they're-
They're great guys.
so fun to watch.
I don't know what other bands are tough to.
Is there any the other way around where there's, obviously you've toured with A Day to Remember where you've supported them.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere you've kind of thought, we've done this, like we've taken over the room here? Any venues or on a tour where
I
you've...
like to think every time, but I don't know.
I mean,
Probably
yeah,
not.
yeah, there's definitely times where like, I would turn to Alan and be like, oh, we crushed that room. It's gonna suck to play after that.
Sick.
I'm not going to say who was playing after us. But
yeah.
Actually, it was
under wraps.
yeah.
If you could support any band, who would it be? If you could go on tour, obviously there's some icons. You mentioned Green Day, Metallica still active, Linkin Park have just got back together. If you could pick anyone,
I mean,
who would you go
Green
on
Day
tour
would be
with?
fun. Doing
Green Day would be amazing. Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters would be cool.
Yeah,
Who
classic.
else?
I'm yet to see Foo Fighters, you know.
Same.
Yeah, same.
I haven't
don't
seen
know
Green
how-
Day either.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, I've seen
Nope.
Green Day. I saw him at
Oh yeah,
when we were young,
when we
a
were
couple
young.
years ago. Yeah.
It was we saw him on the Hella Mega tour with Weezer and
Fall
Fall
Out Boy, yeah.
That
I
was-
just saw
that was
Weezer for the
good.
first time. That might be on my list too. I don't know how well that would go over, but like Blue Album is just like
Yes, seminal.
absolutely one of my top 5 albums. And they just did that tour where they were playing that front to back. And
Amazing.
I said to Dan recently, I was like, every tour now feels like it has to have a gimmick in order for people to show up. And everyone does these anniversary tours. And when we had to do it, we've done it a couple times. It always feels like such a chore. Like, do people even care about this? Do we care? And going to see the Blue Album was my first time experiencing, and I was like, this fucking rocks.
Yes.
I love every song. I'm singing every word. And I left it being like, I get it.
Yeah.
I fucking get it.
Yeah. If it's an album that you connect with,
Yeah.
and you see that band is touring that specific album, you think, I'm going to have to be at that show.
I felt the same way when we saw Death Cab for Cutie playing Transatlanticism and then
so
Postal
good.
Service playing
Give Up.
Give Up. Both albums front to back, and that was awesome.
Which I liked Postal Service, but I didn't know that album as well. But like, yeah,
I did.
Death Cab,
I think the
Transatlanticism.
biggest one for me was Linkin Park at Download playing Hybrid Theory and Fall.
Wow.
That
That's
with
awesome.
Chester as well. It
Yeah.
was phenomenal.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I'll never not be jealous of that when you say it.
I bring it up as often as I can.
It creates a reaction inside me.
That's
Hot
awesome.
take. Linkin Park.
No, not for you.
Oh, that is a hot take.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
quite a hot take.
And the
yeah.
only I think the main reason
why
is just the age.
Yeah, fair enough.
They were at the end of, like, for me anyway, like the end of that.
They
I
were
don't
our
even know what
Imagine
you call it,
Dragons.
like the rap. Yeah, for
Oh,
real.
that's a
that-
bad comparison.
Yeah.
No, I can't say
Yeah,
that
for
one.
real though. But like the rock music with a rapper in it, they were the tail end of it.
yeah,
for us.
we had Limp Bizkit and Rage Against the Machine. We had all the good ones, and then
And
It's
Linkin
the
Park
tail end
came
of the
out.
90s,
Yeah.
early
Yeah.
2000s.
Yeah,
the
and
new
we were
advent
already
of new
moved
metal.
past that
that's-
kind of
and
world.
I mostly say that because that's how we felt at the time. I've never tried to like go back and like see how much I appreciate it,
Yeah.
you know, because I'm sure it's fucking great.
In my opinion, anyone that goes back and re-listens to Hybrid Theory and Meteora will enjoy them to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of the other albums that
I don't think
there's
I've ever
maybe a
listened
couple
to that
songs.
record.
I knew the hits. I knew.
Yeah, I know whatever's on the radio, but I don't think I've
yeah.
ever listened to that.
Give the
record.
album a go, boys.
Yeah.
But we won't keep you any longer.
Yeah.
We know you've got to go sing your hearts out tonight. So have a good show, and thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
for
very
having
much.
us.